Okay, so let's talk about adding a bit to our game data property list, and in particular, let's put in the option to shrink the background border. So I'm going to put in here shrink background, well, we'll say boundary by, and I think that's getting cut off, but I don't actually want that to be a capital Y there. This is going to be a number, and I just found it looked a lot better if we put this down to 0.9 or 90% of the background image back there, which is obviously that level map 1 image. And then let's go ahead and put in another property. This one's going to be debug border, and this is going to be a Boolean variable, which we're going to set to yes, because I'd like you guys to see what that boundary looks like. And while we're over here, let's go ahead and do something similar for the for our character. So let's add in a few of these. First off, it's about time we put this in. Use for collisions. Now, with my project, the leader is always going to be collidable with, but you do have the option for your other leaders to, or other followers, I should say, to not use their collisions. But I think in general, though, you should probably just have the collisions on. I mean, it can look a little weird if one of the people in your group, collides with the border but doesn't actually collide with it, kind of walks through it. So I would suggest they all be on. And then collision body type. And be sure you spell collision right. Collision body type. This is going to be a string type variable, and our two options here are going to be either circle or square. So we're going to put in a circle for right now. We can test a square in a little bit. And then our next one is going to be a collision body covers what percent. So it's just similar to this one right here, just phrased a little bit differently. So let's say collision body covers what percent. That's a rather long name, but that's okay. And then this is also going to be a number. For right now, let's just go ahead and set this to 1, or what will equate to 100%. And then let's put in debug body, so we can see the actual outlines making up the physics shape of this. And this is also going to be a Boolean variable. And of course, when you were to finally publish your game, you'd want to set all these debug options down to no. And that will do it for at least the stuff that we're going to talk about in this particular lesson. So let's head over here to the level class, and let's set up an actual method for testing the border, or I should just say viewing the border, really. So this will be a method called debug. And I'll put in, I'll just call this debug path, because that's kind of what we're creating here. And then we're going to pass in a parameter. This is going to be a CG rect, or just a rectangle. So I'll just call it the rect. That's how we will refer to it inside of here. And let's put in SK shape node. And as you can see here, this little prompt says an object represents an arbitrary shape defined by a core graphics path. So that's where the path comes in that method name. You can apply different colors, a stroke to it, whatever. So that's exactly what we're going to do. And I'm going to say path shape. This is going to equal SK shape node. You just put in your alloc and init CG path ref. And let's take a look at the further definition of this. It says an opaque type that represents an immutable graphics path. All right, so unchangeable, immutable. The path equals CG path create, and let me just keep writing that in. Create with, there it is, with rect. And it's looking for 2 parameters in here. The other one is we're just going to set to null, so we're not going to worry about it. The first one, that's going to be our rectangle that we pass into it, and essentially basically what gets drawn on the screen there. And then we can put path shape dot path is going to equal to what we created in that last line. And then here's where we get to set up some just very simple properties for how this is going to look. Path shape dot line width is going to equal 1. Path shape dot stroke color, we can make this equal to, Sprite Kit has its own kind of quick definitions for or macros for color, so we can put in SK green color, and you can try other colors in there. They'll probably work, like black color, red color. We don't want to do black because that won't show up on how we have things right now. Path shape dot position, and this we might be able to get away with. Let's put CG point make 0 0. In my notes I have that it is in the middle of the frame, but as we learned earlier in one of our other videos, the middle of the frame is 0 0, so let's try it at 0 0. And by default it would get placed there anyway, so we probably don't need the position if that's true. And then finally we're going to put in here my world add child path shape, and then just so that this is up on top of everything else, we'll put it at kind of an absurd Z position of 1000, so clearly above anything else we've created. And now what we just need to do is call this this path when that Boolean variable is set to yes. And let's see, we're going to do that. Well, how about right here? So put in here if, and then let's test that that property. If level dict object for key, then we're going to put in here debug border equals yes. And we're actually going to get an error with that because this results to an object, all right, not a Boolean. Not a simple yes or no data type. What we need to do is convert it. So we're going to put one opening bracket there, and then we're just going to write bool value equals yes. And that should silence that warning. And then we'll write self debug path. And here's where we need to write in the rectangle that we're going to provide. Currently we're not shrinking anything down. We're not using that this property right here. What did I call it? Shrink background border by. So just while we test this, let's just go ahead and put in here the map frame and see what happens. I'm waiting for that to go away. There we go. And probably get rid of this. And sure enough, there we go. That little green border right there is what we want to see. All right, now let's account for that percentage of the shrink. So let's crowbar this in right under setup physics. We'll write float shrinkage. You can insert in your own Seinfeld jokes there. This will be level dict object for key, and then shrink background boundary by, and then after that second to last closing bracket, put in float value, close off that line. And let's go about creating another CG rect down here that accounts for that shrinkage. And we'll say, we'll just call this map with smaller rect. Or, it's a good enough name. All right, so we put in here CG rect make. And it's looking for our X, Y, and our width and our height. All right, well, this is the easy part over here, our width, because we can take our map dot frame dot size dot width and just multiply that by the shrinkage. And we can do that same thing for our height. Let's make sure you can see as much as possible. Our height, and then we're left with what to do about our x and our y. Well, let's do this. Let's put in here map.frame.origin.x and then origin.y. And now essentially all we're doing is just keeping the location that it was at before, and then just adjusting the width and the height. And I'll go ahead and put this in here and replace the body with edge loop from rect with that one, and then I'll do the same thing for this. And I just want to show you guys the problem with it, and you'll be able to see that when we run. Okay, there's the problem right there. We haven't accounted for the amount of shrink in terms of recentering the origin of this. And I know it's a little complicated, but essentially it's just a little bit too far over to the left, okay? And we can figure out what will now be the offset for both the x and the y. With a little bit of easy math. It's offset. I'm just going to create a new int variable. Offset x is going to equal map.frame.size.width minus and all right, put your thinking cap on. I'm going to put this in quotes. I just copied out that same bit times the shrinkage. And then I'm going to divide this by 2. Or actually, yeah, here. No, wait. Yeah, that's okay. Thought I had one too many parentheses in there. We want this to occur first. All right, so to figure out, let's just suppose that the width is going to be 1,000. It's not, but that's an easy number to work with. So let's say it's 1,000 times it by 0.9, so that'll be 900, and then 1,000 minus 900 would be 100. Divide that by 2, that's going to be 50, and that's what our offset is going to be. So then we're just going to add that amount of offset. All right, so offset x added to the origin. And we just do the same thing over here. And I'm sorry, that's offset y. So again, we add this offset y. And so it's a little clearer. Let's do this. Instead of using 0.9, let's put in here 0.5 and run this again. And then what we should see is that the border, is right around our, just kind of the interior part of our map stage, which is intentionally at the exact size of the iPad or whatever device. This can run on the iPhone too, it doesn't matter. So there it is. All right, now let's just take this back down to 0.9, and it should stay nice and centered. There she is. Okay, good. So let's steal some of this code that we just wrote, and we're just going to copy that. Let's take it down here to the character, and boy, there sure isn't a lot in here right now, huh? Go ahead and paste that in. I'm just going to put mine kind of close to the end statement there. And things to change right away just so we don't get any errors will be self, okay, and let's go ahead and add in one more parameter up here. Inside of this this version of it, we're also going to want to account for the body type, all right, because remember we can have potentially a circle or a square in this one, and I guess in theory you could have that for the world maps as well, so if you wanted to make that modification you could, but I'm going to put in here body type int and then type. So whenever we call this method, we're also going to pass in that particular type. And let's go over here to our constants file, and let's add in static constant int circle type. It's going to equal 0, and static, this is where copy and paste comes in, square type. Alright, so then back over here what we can do is I'm just trying to give myself a little breathing room. And the breathing room I want is right here. There it is. Okay. This is going to be the line that is dependent on the body type. So if type equals, there's our square type, then we can do that. And you know what I need to do? I don't want to declare this or set it up initially inside of an if statement. What I want to do is just take this out of here, close that off, and then do that. So that way, in my next statement, I can make reference to that same the path. This one would stay the same, obviously. This one right here, we're gonna just do this: CG path create with ellipse in rect. All right, and the nice thing about this is we can just put back in here our the rect again, and this isn't a perfect circle, which is nice actually. So if the rectangle was a bit taller than it was wider, the path that gets created, or the ellipse inside of that rectangle, is going to be the same shape as that rectangle. All right, so just going to be running along it. So you could have a very tall path, essentially, or tall circle. And then otherwise, I think everything is going to be exactly as we had it before. Of course, what we do need to do is come up here and establish whether or not we're actually going to use the physics at all, and the exact type. So let's go ahead and create a method called void and set up physics, and we can go ahead and move all this fun stuff to within here, and let's write an if statement. If, and let's set up a new variable for this, if used for collisions equals to yes, then write self set up physics, and let's go ahead and declare that this new variable up here at the top of the file. So we'll write used for collisions and just put bool in front of that. There you go. Alright, so prior to that, we're going to have to put use for collisions, and then this will be our character data, object for key, use for collisions, and of course this is going to be a bool value. So then everything else physics related will be set up right down here. And one of the other things that we're going to need to do is put in some or set up some variables for the percentage. And because I'm kind of running a little short on time, what I'm going to do is just copy this in here. So collision body covers what percentage? Let's go ahead and set this up here as well. This is going to be a float value. Okay, and then our next one is going to be, actually we can go ahead and just, yeah, here we go. We want to save a variable for what our collision body type is going to be. So go ahead and skip back up here to the top. Collision body type is just going to be a it's going to be a new one that we haven't used yet. Unsigned car collision body type. And the reason I'm using this is because this is a very small range. It's only it's an integer which can only be from 0 to 255, and as you know from my constants file, my only two options here are 0 to 1. So in some sense, I could just get away with a Boolean too, but let's go ahead and just make this an unsigned car, collision body type, and then we'll skip down here and put in collision body type, or I should say, if, because what we need to do is test the string value of that. So it's going to be if character data object for key collision body type is equal to string square. So if that's the case, then we say collision body type is going to equal to square type, and then we can just put in here a simple else statement. It says else collision body type equals circle type. And now let's peel off this line, and we'll put it under here for the circle type. And for this one, we're going to change this to be body with rectangle of size. And before we go ahead and put anything in here, we do need to account for the sizing. Our collision body covers what %. So let's just kind of leave this as a, I don't know, character dot frame dot size for right now, and then just step up here, and we're going to create a new size variable, a CG size, and let's say a new size. And keep in mind, both of these are asking for a size inside of here, essentially. So instead of a rectangle like we saw with our debug path. So a CG size make just wants a width and a height. And for here, we'll put in character. Keep in mind that is our actual artwork. Character.size.width times. So we're going to multiply our collision body covers what %. That is the world's longest variable name, I know. And it just means that this next line here is going to trail off a bit. Character.size.height. So this one too is going to be multiplied by collision body covers what %. Oh, look at that. I'll just barely get it in there. And then this is just saying that we haven't used that one yet. So we'll come down here. Body with rectangle of size. This is going to be new size. And that actually completes that. And then for the body with circle of radius, what we can do is just put in here new size dot width, okay, because it's a CG size. That is a property of width now. Divided by 2, because we're asking for the radius. So this will already have been multiplied by 90% from up here, and then divided by 2. And then what we need to do is just put in here some if statements. So we'll write in if, and let's steal a little bit of this. If character data object for key, this is going to be show, no, what did I call it? Okay, yeah. And I do actually want to set that to be yes for our testing. So if debug body and bool value equals yes, then we are going to call self debug path, and it's asking us for the rect and the collision body type. Just go ahead and put in rect for right now, and then for this, that's just our collision body type. And we'll create this particular rect in just a moment, and we'll do the same thing up over here too. All right, just write in here CG rect. This will be rect equals CG rect make, and what we need to do is here, I'm just going to paste this in. A little easier than typing it this time around. So we're going to take our new size divided by half, and then a negative value of this. I can do the same thing for the height. Okay, so that just offsets it. Again, it's actually probably a quicker way than I did before with the offsetting. And then the new size.width and the new size.height. And I believe we can do the exact same thing right over here. And come to think of it, I suppose I could peel this if statement out of both of those conditions, couldn't I? Just put it right here. But let's just test it out and see if it runs how I'm assuming it's going to run, which we'll see the path around the body. And of course, we've only got one character right here, so it'd be nice if we had two, so we could test to see if an alternate square version was showing up as well. But we can make that change in a second. All right, sick of seeing that log statement right there. Sure enough, there is the body covering our character, and look at him collide around. Let's go over here to the game data plist real fast, and let's just copy this, change this one to be square. Not even going to worry about the collision. I mean, those the fact that they're both on top of each other. Hopefully they'll kind of separate once they get oh, you know what, well, we don't even have come to think of it, we don't even have code in there for adding more than one character, so the first one still got added. Well, we'll delete that guy and we'll just use this one now. So there it is. There is the square around him, and doink. Let's watch him collide with the wall, and sure enough, that is working. All right, that's enough on for this video.